Um, yeah, so I've just like randomly started posting these videos like 8 months ago, and I only would have done a few, but one of them went crazy, and I was like, okay, I'm going to commit to doing this, every day or as close to every day as I can for a year because I've always felt like, hey, I can't really stick with anything. So it's like a discipline thing. And I've done that for the most part. I miss a day here and there, but if I hit like 5 a week, it makes me happy. And I've grown my account from like, I don't know, maybe a couple hundred followers on, Instagram to almost I think it's at 24,000 now in 8 months. I've got like one video that's at a million and another one that's like almost at a million. And that's cool. And it feels like really validating. And also on TikTok, it's more than that, which I started there as like an experiment because I didn't want to annoy my Instagram friends. But anyway, so on both those platforms, they're like kind of going nuts, and I've had a lot of fun doing that. But now I'm kind of at a place where I'm like, oh, like making stuff every day is kind of draining artistically or whatever, or you feel like maybe you start to rehash things, or also in my case, you kind of feel like, you start kind of playing a character. You're mining like the same places. And, I really want to hit that year, but it's getting kind of hard. I'm kind of thinking like maybe I could evolve the idea into, maybe not a video every day, but maybe posting every day. You see, for most of my life, I've been a songwriter, and I've like done a bunch of different genres, and but lyrically my stuff has always been really personal, but it's also contained a lot of like humorous elements, and I've done okay. And that's kind of how like most people have known me my whole life, the guy who writes like the stupid songs, but they're kind of like also like I don't know, heartbreaking or something, I don't know. But then like 2 years ago, I got this idea because somebody told me, it was like, hey, basically made me realize that I'm always like covering up my emotions with humor and stuff like that. So I decided, hey, I'm gonna try this experiment. I've always been like almost secretly more interested in writing in some ways, or like trying to distill things down to their essence. Um, so I was like, how about this? How about for a year, I'm gonna start making these zines, and I'm going to be completely not humorless, but just as vulnerable as possible to the point of uncomfortability. And I made the first one and gave it to some friends and sold it at some shows and stuff. And it did really well, and the reception was different. It was also like the most money I'd ever made making art, just selling these little zines. And people were like really connecting with the work in a different way. And it felt good to be really open. And so I'm making these zines, and I have like film as my background, like professionally. And so I was like, well, hey, what if I did like, I had this mini DV camera because I was transferring these old tapes. And I was like, what if and I'd also seen George Kuchar, if you haven't heard of him. He did these like video diaries back in the 80s called the Weather Diaries. There's some graphic stuff in there, but in general, they're really cool. And I like the aesthetic of that. And I was like, oh, you can like make a whole movie just of like filming your life. So I basically was like, well, I'm gonna make like a zine, one of the zines, and do it as a film. And I made a 15-minute, well, 20-minute film that way. And I really liked that, and it felt really good. And people responded really well to it, and it was exciting. And I'd always had an interest also in like poetry, like, really short writings, maybe more than anything. Maybe not necessarily, just poetry, short prose even. And I also I've always been really into like really like raw stuff. Just stripping things down to their bare essentials. And that's still where I am now. I'm like getting further and further down that road. Even with the songs that I write, they're like getting shorter and shorter. So I made a couple of, reels for social media with short writings over top of footage that I'd filmed with the old mini DV camera. And all of a sudden, one of them just starts, exploding. And I was like, whoa, what is this? And it was like, every time I open my phone, like every 10 minutes, I've got like 200 more comments. I was like, what? And that was when I made the decision to post daily. Or almost daily. And, also when I started making the zines, this is important to a background. And up until now, but more so when I started, I was kind of going through like a pretty heavy depression, and I guess I still am. But I'm kind of feeling out of it now, and I, that leaked into the work, obviously, so my stuff is like really like downery, really depressing and stuff, and I like that. It's fun. But making these reels every day, and the accounts just keep exploding, and I even made a book, like compiling the zines, and that's what I'm kind of think that is my main focus, is like just writing books at this point. Like I like making the movies, but they're almost like I want to put like all the worlds together, and eventually maybe the purpose of the films will be like to in service of the books and the writing, and vice versa. The music will probably live in its own world. But yeah, I don't know how I went on a tangent. But the mood of the thing has become a certain thing. And whereas I used to feel trapped by being the comedy man, now I'm kind of feeling trapped by being the sad man. Because even though I am still, in a state of depression, I feel like in a way continuing to create this kind of stuff is kind of keeping me a little bit in a hole. Not totally. And I am feeling a lot better, but I'm like, I want to diversify a little bit. And I want to like educate myself a little bit more with like in the world of writing and poetry and stuff like that more. I'm like a little more of getting into a deep dive or whatever. I keep raising my eyebrows. I don't know what I'm doing. It's also an ad for Polar Ice. But so that's where I'm at. I've like gained all of these followers, and I just hit 1,000 here, and I'm like, man, I hope I can, grow even more on YouTube. I like YouTube. I like, I think longer format is a little more natural, even though I like short stuff. I just mean even longer. Like my reels are like 10 seconds, 20 seconds, but hey, naturally hitting a minute or two is pretty good. And also I have a couple of diary films that are like in the 15-minute range that I really like, but that's a totally different animal. That's more like freeform. But yeah, so I have compiled my zines into this book called Corb City. And this is obviously, whatever, but, there's like drawings and shit. It's like a comic book, but not really. It's like, there's like writings and, drawings and all this. It's a whole bunch of excitement. But yeah, I'm kind of lost. And I don't know what to do. I'm still figuring it out. I thought when I had the first hit, I was like, I found it. My whole life I've always wondered, like, what's my lane, And I thought I found it. And now I'm like, still, maybe I think no. But we're getting there. Yeah, so just because you start hitting the jackpot a little bit doesn't mean that you I have completely made it out of the fog, I guess. And in some ways, things are a little more obscure, but they're sorting themselves out. And I don't know. I guess we're going to do some more stuff like this. I'd like to, maybe once a week. But just kind of going through like the artistic process of what I'm doing. Some people might find it interesting. Some people might be like, this shit blows. Whatever. It is what it is. But thanks for helping me hit, 1K. That's cool. If I hit 4,000 hours, I can monetize the channel. That would be cool because I am not a rich man, So we just keep going. I'm working on another book now. Maybe a little more typed out, perhaps. Maybe more like, I'm doing a lot of like poetry stuff, but also short writings, short like prose stuff. I don't, I feel like I'm trying to urge myself to like fit into this box. I'm like, why can't I just be one thing? But every month I want to do something else, and then in another month I'll be doing another diary film or whatever. I have already one basically sitting on my computer the last month that I haven't released or talked about yet, but I'm all over, man. I got an album coming out soon too, but I'm trying to zone myself into book world. And anytime I don't post, like those reels, I got my laundry hanging out behind me. There you go. That I post something like kind of different on social media, the reach goes way down. It's not even that the engagement goes down. It's like the algorithm is like, what the hell is this? It's like, this doesn't look like your old stuff. Now I'm going to cut your reach and engagement down to, a tenth of what it was. And then I freak out and I'm like, well, I better just make the same thing. But the time for that is over. It's just time to start experimenting again because I'm getting tired of it. Doing the same thing all the time. I'm not going to stop completely, but it's time for a little more variety perhaps. But, oh well. See you next time. Thanks for listening. And if you're interested, you can find me on Instagram. If you look up at all one word, the Jeff Spisak, and the spelling is right under my channel name. And I believe my name is the same. I think it's Jeff.Spisak on TikTok. I don't pay attention to that one as much. But you'll find me. Just type my name in if you want to follow along. And it's kind of spooky to change formats, but I've never been one to do the same thing for a long time. So I'm like, you know what? Let's just start playing around. Who cares if you get 6 likes? But okay. Bye-bye.